People are going to change on you. Count on it. The real question is, will you be ready to stand strong when they do? It's an uncomfortable truth that we often avoid. The people we rely on the most can shift, sometimes unexpectedly. One day, they're your closest friend, your partner, your rock, and the next, they've grown distant, become someone else, or walked away entirely. These changes can feel like the ground beneath your feet has suddenly disappeared, leaving you unsteady, vulnerable, and questioning everything. You've likely been there before, left wondering, how did things change so fast? Was it something I did? But here's a hard truth that can save you a world of pain. You cannot control how others evolve, their decisions, or their personal paths. And while that reality can sting, it's also incredibly liberating. You're only responsible for your response, for how you adapt and continue forward in the face of shifting relationships and unpredictable circumstances. So the question isn't whether others will change, because they will, but whether you're prepared to keep your footing when they do. In today's video, we're going to dive into exactly what it takes to develop that inner resilience. We'll be exploring timeless Stoic wisdom, breaking down how to ground yourself in your own strength so that no matter how life rearranges itself around you, you remain unshaken. How can you maintain your peace, your self-worth, and your confidence, even when life throws you curveballs? How can you stay true to who you are without getting lost in someone else's changes or decisions? This isn't about shutting yourself off from others. It's about being so rooted in your own values, strength, and purpose that you can stand tall through any storm. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll have the tools to face life's inevitable changes head-on without losing yourself in the process. Chapter 1. The Unpredictability of People. One thing life guarantees is this: people change, and not always in the ways you expect. It could be a best friend who suddenly drifts away, or a partner who no longer shares your vision for the future. It's like watching your favorite TV show, and suddenly, the lead character gets replaced by someone else. Same face, different personality. That's life sometimes. People evolve, and while we can't control that, we can definitely control how we respond. Now here's where the Stoics come in. They taught that the only thing you can truly control is your own mindset. How you think, how you act, and how you react. Everything outside of that? Well, it's just like trying to predict the weather. No matter how much you plan for sunshine, sometimes it rains. Let me share a personal example. A few years back, I had a friend I was really close to. We shared everything, our goals, struggles, you name it. One day, out of nowhere, things shifted. He started pulling back, became distant, and it felt like I had been dropped into the middle of a different relationship with the same person. I'll admit, at first, I took it personally. I went through the motions, wondering what I had done wrong, trying to fix things. But the harder I tried, the more I realized that people's journeys are their own. It wasn't about me at all. It was about him growing in a different direction. This is where Stoicism became my saving grace. Instead of getting lost in frustration or hurt, I reminded myself of Epictetus's wisdom. We suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgment about them. My friend's change didn't have to mean suffering for me. I couldn't control what he was going through, but I could control my response. I mean, think about it. People change their favorite pizza toppings. First, it's pepperoni, then they start talking about going vegan. If you tried to keep up with that, you'd drive yourself crazy. So, why do we expect people's emotions or loyalty to stay constant when everything else in life is always shifting? The key takeaway here is that if you want to remain strong when life's relationships shift, you need to stop expecting stability from everyone around you. The real stability, as the Stoics remind us, comes from within. You have to learn how to be your own anchor when the waves of life start to shake things up. Once you understand that, you'll stop being thrown off course by other people's changes. You'll know that, while you can't control them, you can control how you keep standing tall, staying grounded in who you are. Chapter 2. Self-Reliance over Dependency. We've all been there, leaning on someone a little too much, depending on others to give us what we should be finding within ourselves. And while it's natural to seek support, relying too heavily on others can leave you vulnerable. Here's the Stoic truth. The only thing you can truly control is yourself. Everything else, your relationships, your job, even your health, can shift in a moment's notice. That's why true self-reliance is key. Dependency is like building a house on a shaky foundation. When the storms hit, and trust me, they will, it's going to come crashing down. But when you rely on your own strength, your own values, and your own resilience, you're setting up a solid base that won't waver, no matter what's happening around you. Let me give you an example. I had a friend once, great guy, but he was always leaning on his relationships for stability. He would tie his happiness to whether his partner was in a good mood or his friends were available. When people around him were happy, he was happy. But when those relationships hit bumps, his entire world would crumble. He was constantly chasing stability through others, essentially giving them the reins to his peace of mind. It wasn't until a particularly tough breakup that he finally got it. Depending on others to fulfill your happiness is like trying to stand tall on shifting sand. It's unstable and ultimately out of your control. He had to learn the hard way to reclaim his sense of self, to build that foundation within. So, no matter what happened in his relationships, he stayed steady. It's like handing over the remote control of your life and then getting upset when people keep flipping channels. One minute you're in the comedy section, next minute you're in full-on drama mode, wondering why you're not in control of what's happening. The solution? Take the remote back, my friend. Self-reliance doesn't mean shutting yourself off from others, and it certainly doesn't mean you don't ask for help when you need it. The Stoics were all about connection and relationships. But it does mean you aren't dependent on those relationships for your sense of worth or happiness. Epictetus said it best. No man is free who is not master of himself. So how do you get there? How do you shift from dependency to self-reliance? It starts with knowing your own values, your purpose, and what drives you, independent of others. Are you living for yourself or for the validation of those around you? Because when you're grounded in who you are, you don't need anyone else to prop you up. If someone lets you down, sure, it stings, but it doesn't crush you. You're still standing because you've built your strength from the inside out. A few years ago, I found myself in a similar situation. I'd gotten into the habit of relying on external validation, work accolades, friendships, all of it. If people were happy with me, I was happy with me. Then one day, out of nowhere, my support system shifted. A couple of key relationships I thought I could depend on faded, and suddenly I felt like I was standing alone. But here's where Stoic wisdom comes in. I realized that my problem wasn't those people leaving. It was that I had been placing my peace of mind in their hands to begin with. That was on me. I had to learn to turn inward, to become the source of my own validation. Once I did, everything changed. Relationships became healthier, because I wasn't leaning on anyone to fill gaps they couldn't possibly fill. I wasn't asking others to complete me. I was asking them to walk alongside me, whole and steady in myself. Self-reliance is about fortifying your own inner world so that no matter what happens around you, who changes, who comes, who goes, you remain unshaken. You're not waiting for someone else to fulfill you. You've already got what you need inside of you. The Stoics taught us that the key to freedom is understanding that you are the master of your own life. Not the people around you, not the circumstances, just you. Remember, people can change and external situations are unpredictable. but the one constant you can count on is you. Chapter 3. Embrace the inevitability of change. Here's the hard truth. Everything in life is going to change, and that includes people. The sooner you embrace this fact, the sooner you'll find peace. Stoicism teaches us that the only constant in life is change. So, trying to resist it, or hold on to the way things used to be, is like trying to stop the ocean's tide with your bare hands. It's a losing battle. People evolve, relationships shift, and circumstances are always in flux. What matters isn't avoiding change, but how that you handle it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." That's a powerful reminder that we don't control external events, but we do control our internal responses. And since change is inevitable, the only logical course of action is to embrace it. Imagine if trees refused to shed their leaves in the fall. They'd look ridiculous, desperately clinging to dead leaves while the wind blows everything else away. But trees don't fight the seasons. They let go, trusting that spring will bring new growth. The same goes for us. Trying to hold on to old habits, old versions of ourselves, or worse, trying to keep people the same, just leaves us stuck, looking as foolish as a tree in winter, refusing to let go of its past. I used to think that if I could keep everything in my life the way it was, if I could just hold on to the right people, the right job, and the right routine, then I'd be happy. There's comfort in predictability, right? But life had other plans. One by one, those things changed. A close friend moved away, a job I relied on didn't turn out as expected, and my daily routine was flipped on its head. I tried to fight it at first, constantly thinking, if only things could go back to the way they were. But here's what Stoicism helped me understand. Resisting change only adds to the struggle. The more I fought to keep everything in place, the more miserable I became. It wasn't until I embraced the changes that I started to adapt. When I let go of that friend moving away and accepted that our relationship would be different, but not worse, it opened up new possibilities for connection. When I stopped clinging to that job and accepted that I needed to pivot, better opportunities presented themselves. The Stoics were big on understanding the nature of the universe. Epictetus reminds us that there's no use fighting what's beyond our control, and guess what? Change is beyond our control. The real power comes from how we adapt. Think of life like a river. It's always moving. You can't step into the same river twice as the water constantly flows. Fighting the current won't stop it. You can only learn to navigate it. Have you ever been in one of those awkward situations where everyone else has moved on from a trend, but one guy's still trying to make it work? Like the guy who's still rocking a flip phone in 2024 because he's staying true to the classics. That's what fighting change looks like. It's uncomfortable, and you're the only one holding on while everyone else has adapted. Here's the thing. When you embrace change, you become adaptable. You learn to ride the waves of life instead of getting knocked over by every shift. And that's where true strength lies. The Stoics weren't interested in preventing the inevitable. They focused on how to move through it with grace and resilience. There was a time when a close friend of mine completely shifted who they were. We had always connected over similar interests, hobbies, and even worldviews. But as life moved forward, so did they. Suddenly, they were into different things, and our conversations started to feel off. At first, I took it personally, wondering, why are they changing? What happened to the person I knew? But that mindset just left me feeling disconnected. Eventually, I realized that resisting their growth was only hurting me. So I made a conscious decision to accept that this person was evolving, just like we all do. I didn't lose the friendship. I just learned to adapt to its new form. And in doing so, I also embraced the changes in myself. Accepting change isn't about being passive. It's about being resilient. It's about recognizing that change is a part of life, and instead of fighting it, you can use it to grow. That's why Stoics emphasize focusing on what's in our control. how we respond to the shifting nature of life. The more you fight change, the more energy you waste. But when you embrace it, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. It's like showing up to a party and realizing they've switched from beer to kombucha. You can either complain that it's not your thing, or you can try the kombucha, adapt, and maybe even enjoy it. Life's going to keep serving you new flavors. How you react is what matters. Next time something in your life changes, whether it's a person, a job, or even just a routine, take a step back. Ask yourself, is resisting this change doing me any good? Chances are, it's not. Instead, practice accepting it and see how you can adapt to the new situation. You'll find that life becomes a lot easier when you stop fighting the inevitable. The Stoics believed that life's changes are opportunities for growth. What matters is how you navigate them, with grace, adaptability, and the knowledge that you have the strength to survive, no matter what. Embrace the change, and watch how resilient you become. Chapter 4. Strength in Solitude. When life throws you a curveball, whether it's a job loss, a breakup, or a friend suddenly changing, your true strength is measured by what's inside, not by the circumstances around you. Stoicism teaches that real power comes from within, from a place that external events can't shake. The question isn't whether life will challenge you. It will. The question is, have you built enough inner strength to handle it when it does? Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That's the Stoic essence right there. You can't control the storms in life, but you can control your shelter. And the stronger your inner foundation, the more unshaken you remain, no matter what's happening around you. I remember a time when I lost a promotion at work that I felt was practically in the bag. I had worked hard, stayed late, and put in extra effort. Then, out of nowhere, the company promoted someone else, someone who I didn't think was nearly as deserving. For a moment, I was crushed. I felt like the universe had betrayed me. The temptation to sulk was strong, believe me. But after sitting with it for a while and probably more than one cup of coffee staring into space, I realized something. My reaction was the only thing in my control. So instead of getting bitter, I decided to focus on improving my skills and mindset. I doubled down on what I could control, my own development. And that shift in perspective, instead of waiting around for a handout, allowed me to become more resilient. A year later, I landed a better opportunity. Because I worked on my inner strength rather than relying on external validation. The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, emphasized that inner strength comes from building habits of resilience and endurance. They remind us that challenges are part of life's natural order, and while they may feel like disruptions, they are also opportunities for growth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, your obstacles are the path to becoming stronger. When challenges arise, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the Stoic asks, "How can I use this to build my character?" Building inner strength isn't something that happens overnight. It's cultivated through daily actions, reflections, and how you respond to the little bumps in the road. Each obstacle is a chance to develop that strength further. The Stoics saw every challenge as a training ground for virtue, whether it was fortitude, patience, or wisdom. By consistently responding to adversity with composure, you create a kind of emotional armor, not one that blocks you from feeling, but one that helps you endure and thrive. Think of inner strength like building muscle. You don't walk into a gym and immediately bench press 300 pounds. You start small, maybe struggling with just the bar. But over time, with consistent effort, you get stronger. Life's challenges are like weights. The heavier the challenge, the stronger you become, unless you skip leg day. Never skip leg day. Start small. The next time you face something frustrating or painful, whether it's someone cutting you off in traffic or a setback at work, Take a moment to step back. Don't react immediately. Instead, ask yourself, how can I grow from this? By treating every challenge as an opportunity to strengthen yourself, you'll find that what once knocked you down will eventually feel like just another set of reps at the emotional gym. And remember, inner strength is like a muscle. It grows with use. The more you lean into discomfort and respond with resilience, the stronger you become. That's where real power lies. Stoicism teaches that no matter what life throws your way, you have the ability to remain steady, calm, and unbreakable. So don't avoid life's challenges. Embrace them. They're the fuel that powers your growth. You'll find that as you strengthen your inner core, nothing, no job, no relationship, no change, will be able to shake you. Chapter 5. Pain as a teacher, not a destroyer. Pain is inevitable. Physical, emotional, or mental, we all face it. But here's the Stoic twist. Pain isn't something that's here to destroy you. Instead, pain is a teacher, a necessary part of growth. The key is in how you perceive it. Rather than seeing pain as a roadblock, the Stoic mindset frames it as an opportunity, a challenge that can refine and strengthen you. Think of it like this. Pain is life's way of testing your resilience. It's like going to the gym. No one gets stronger by lifting nothing. You grow by enduring the weight, pushing through the discomfort. The same applies to your mental and emotional muscles. Years ago, I went through a tough breakup, one of those that shakes your confidence and makes you question everything. At the time, it felt like the world was crumbling. You know the kind. The days that feel endless and the nights when sleep doesn't come easy. But after some time, I started to reflect and realized that pain wasn't my enemy. In fact, it was the exact thing I needed. It made me confront parts of myself that I had ignored for too long, forced me to address weaknesses in how I approached relationships, and ultimately led me to a better version of myself. Was it easy? Absolutely not. But pain turned out to be one of the best teachers I've ever had. One that doesn't sugarcoat the truth, but forces you to grow. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that while we cannot control external events, we can control how we respond to them. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Pain, in the Stoic philosophy, is something to be faced head-on. It's like a test of your character and resolve. By enduring it, you come out on the other side stronger and more resilient. This isn't about pretending pain doesn't exist or trying to push it aside. That's unrealistic and, honestly, unhealthy. Pain is real and unavoidable. What the Stoics encourage is to reframe how you think about it. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "What can I learn from this?" Let's be real, sometimes life throws you curveballs that feel more like getting hit by a truck. I'm not suggesting you smile through a crisis like some over-enthusiastic life coach on a bad motivational poster. But, in the middle of those tough times, a Stoic sees the challenge and says, "All right, what is this teaching me?" Maybe after a good cup of coffee first. Instead of wallowing in suffering, recognize that pain is an integral part of human experience. The pain isn't here to destroy you. It's there to push you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and the world. When you stop seeing pain as your enemy and start viewing it as a guide, no matter how harsh, you'll find the strength to not only survive it, but to thrive through it. That's the Stoic way. Letting pain shape you without letting it break you. The Stoics believed that it is in our most painful moments that we have the greatest opportunity for growth. Whether it's losing someone, a job, or going through any other difficult life experience, pain serves as a catalyst for transformation. So the next time life throws a punch, don't flinch or run from it. Face it, feel it, learn from it, because the pain you feel today is not your enemy. It's your teacher, and it's preparing you for the stronger, more resilient person you're about to become. Remember, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, and that choice is entirely up to you. Chapter 6. Cultivating Resilience Through Stoicism. Resilience is one of those traits we admire in others but often overlook in ourselves until life throws us a curveball. The Stoics believe that resilience isn't something you're born with, it's something you cultivate, like a muscle you strengthen over time. Stoicism provides the tools to face life's hardships, not by avoiding pain, but by embracing it as an opportunity for growth. Here's the thing, life is going to knock you down, maybe more times than you care to admit. The real question is, how quickly do you get back up? Stoicism teaches us that setbacks are inevitable, but suffering is optional. By focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, actions, and responses, you can weather life's storms with a steady hand. Picture life like a heavyweight boxer. You're in the ring and life's throwing punches, sometimes a jab, sometimes a full-on uppercut. And you're thinking, didn't I train for this? But here's where Stoicism comes in handy. It's your mental gym. You won't dodge every hit, but you'll learn to roll with the punches. I remember a time when I lost a job I'd spent years working toward. It felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me. I could have spent months wallowing in self-pity, but instead, I leaned into the Stoic idea of amor fati, the love of fate. I accepted that the loss, painful as it was, could open new doors I hadn't considered. Sure enough, it did. What felt like a major setback ended up pushing me toward an even better opportunity. Resilience isn't about being tough all the time. It's about how you choose to react when life doesn't go your way. You can't control the punches life throws, but you can decide how you get back up, and that's where true strength lies. Chapter 7. Building Your Own Foundation. In Stoicism, the concept of building your own foundation is all about internal stability. The Stoics taught that everything external, relationships, material possessions, even your own health, can be taken from you at any moment. What remains, and what no one can take, is your inner character, your values, and your sense of self. That's your foundation. If you've built it strong, no storm will shake you. Now let's be real. Most people put their sense of self in other people or things, their job, their relationships, their status. But when those things change or disappear, and they will, it's like their whole house comes crashing down. The Stoic approach? Build that foundation within yourself. Rely on what you can control, your own actions, thoughts, and integrity. Think of it like constructing a house on a beach. If your foundation is built on someone else's approval or circumstances, that's like building on sand. Sure, everything looks great when the weather's nice, but when the tide comes in, bam! You're out there scrambling to pick up the pieces while your beach umbrella is floating out to sea. It's the ultimate, I should have known moment. But if you build your house on solid ground, your own internal values, then no amount of wind or waves will topple it. I learned this lesson the hard way when a close friendship of mine fell apart. I had poured so much of myself into that relationship that when it ended, I felt like a part of my identity had gone with it. I spent months feeling lost, like I was standing on shaky ground. Then it hit me. I had outsourced my stability. The moment I started shifting my focus inward, working on the things I could control, my own sense of purpose, my personal growth, I began to feel grounded again. The friendship may have ended, but I didn't fall apart with it. Building your own foundation is about understanding that nothing outside of you is guaranteed. Friends may leave, jobs may change, but what remains is your ability to stand tall no matter what. As the Stoics would say, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. At the end of the day, standing firm when people change is about more than just surviving. It's about thriving in the face of uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and people will come and go, evolve, and sometimes leave you in the dust. But if you've built a strong foundation within yourself, rooted in self-reliance, you'll never be shaken. Remember, as the Stoics taught, it's not what happens to you that matters. It's how you respond. Now here's your challenge. Take one area of your life where you feel dependent on others, whether it's for validation, happiness, or stability, and start building your own foundation in that area. It could be small, like taking responsibility for your own emotional reactions, or bigger, like shifting your focus from seeking approval to living by your own values. Whatever it is, commit to that change for the next week. And once you've started, drop a comment below sharing what you've done to take back control. Let's see how you're building your foundation.